Dr. Ott, one of the really wonderful things that came out of your presentation to our Youth Ministry Initiative Practicum today was you emphasized over and over that one can teach intentional programmatic activity on gender disparity issues, but the real fruit is when we integrate our practices that lift up modeling behavior and skills of negotiation in everything we do when we gather as a youth group. How would you describe or lay the groundwork for a youth ministry who goes, okay, I want to do that? How do they begin to think about the different dimensions of their ministry where this applies?
So we initially talked about doing sort of an inventory, right? Look at the kind of leadership that's part of your youth ministry context, and broadly conceive, not just you yourself as the youth minister, but what kind of other pastoral leadership is happening in the congregation that you're in. And then even below you, what kind of leadership do you see among the teens? You might also ask yourself, what kind of leadership do you see among the parents? You know, who shows up for the kinds of events you have? Who are the parents in terms of gender representation that get the youth there, that make this happen? So if you did an inventory of the kind of leadership you see and the commitment to youth ministry, you might see gender equity, and that would be great, but you might also see gender disparity. You may see ways in which certain voices or bodies are overrepresented. And then by doing that inventory, you could think creatively about ways to bring greater equity there, as well as use them as teachable moments for this gender negotiation. Another place you might look is the kind of language that's used. So we know historically within feminist theology that issues of inclusive language have had a great impact on the ways in which different genders integrate their spirituality and understand theological concepts. So, for example, there's been much work done by young children, especially young women who have experienced sexual abuse, and the way in which male images of God can be detrimental to them. So that might be a place where, given the kind of sexual harassment we know young women experience, that we want to have more inclusive images of God. But it might just be language we use to talk to our kids. I said earlier, do you use language like everyone or y'all or folks? What kind of language do we use? And what kind of sources do we bring in as we think about that language? How do we expand our theological language? And then the third area would be with regard to relationships. We know oftentimes when we think about gender, girls are great at relationships. Boys tend to fall away from certain close relationships as they get older, especially the older teens in our youth groups. So how might we create programming or opportunities where they can grow and deepen in the way they form relationships? So if we do an inventory around issues of leadership, language, and relationships, we're already on our way to thinking about the everyday examples of how gender affects the way that we do youth ministry.